Commend the report of the Standing Orders Committee to the House.
Te ura Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker, kia ora tātou katoa. I'm pleased to stand to acknowledge the important amendments that would be made in the Standing Committee, especially as I've been privileged to be a member of that committee. I've got to say I really enjoyed the contributions made by members of that committee, those ones who have been around for some period of time, the likes of the Honourable Rodney Hyde, Trevor Mallard, Simon Power and Rick Barker indeed, and acknowledge the leadership given by the Honourable, was it right Honourable? Well, the Mr. Speaker, I'll put it that way, Mr. Speaker, sorry about that. It was really good to have the cooperative nature of the whole of the committee working together. If I can just follow on the lead given by Mr. Kennedy Graham this afternoon, I've got a few points that I'd like to mention that were highlighted. The very first amendment to add a new paragraph to Standing Order 13 is one that we had considerable interest in. Indeed, we believe it is fundamental to good government. It is the amendment which would allow any member taking the oath to only use the words required by law. I really enjoyed this debate for a number of reasons, talking about subtle things around the legislation, like just before, if you're going to say something just before the oath, is that counted, and all that sort of stuff was quite interesting. Our interest, I suppose, is sort of in two regards. Whilst we endorse the importance of consistency, Mr. Speaker, in over formalising the most sacred oath of allegiance to this House, we didn't necessarily agree that the current wording of the oath is sufficiently robust as an oath for Aotearoa. Te Tiriti o Waitangi is our founding document, and people who hold public office should not be deprived of giving it some recognition. Mr. Speaker, 2 months ago, my colleague Rahui Kātene announced that the Māori Party is proposing a private members' bill that will give politicians, police officers, members of the judiciary and public office holders an option to uphold the nation's founding document when they swear their oath of allegiance. As I said, the treaty is a fundamental basis of our identity as a nation, and it provides us with the foundations for our parliament in this country, Aotearoa, New Zealand. The Oaths and Declaration Bill moves us forward in a journey to nationhood and is another step in upholding Te Tiriti o Waitangi. In effect, the impact of our private members' bill is that any person who elects to state that they uphold the Tiriti o Waitangi may do so by making the following statement at the end of the affirmation: I will uphold the Tiriti o Waitangi, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, ka whakaungia e au Te Tiriti o Waitangi. So pretty minimal change. The Māori Party has been lobbying to bring legislation into the context of statutory oaths and declarations since July 2006. We uphold, as I say, Te Tiriti as our founding document, and it's incumbent on Parliament to deal with matters involving tangata whenua, in particular on the basis of the treaty principles, namely things like mutual respect, reasonable cooperation and the utmost good faith. Endorsement of the treaty would be an easy and efficient way of expressing this commitment, Mr. Speaker. We would ideally hope that the proposed amendment would be supported on the understanding that we seek to amend the oath as an immediate priority in the new Parliament to best reflect our adherence to Te Tiriti o Waitangi as the founding document of this land. So the most significant advance that we would like to acknowledge in this debate is Amendment 14, which amends Standing Orders 139 and 151, which refer to the casting of proxy votes. The Māori Party raised the issue of casting proxy votes because we believed it to be pretty unfair, in particular the smaller parties. Prior to this report, a party which could only lodge up to 25% of its vote by proxy. In this sense, the Standing Orders penalise minor parties with more than one MP. We say this because single MP parties can be absent and their vote still counts, while a party with 4 or 5 MPs can have 2 members in the House and still not be able to cast a full complement of votes. We believe, as I say, this is pretty unfair, but we're pleased to see the amendment to Standing Order 139 and 151 to enable any party with up to 5 members to have their votes cast on their behalf, notwithstanding the need for the party to still have members in the precinct. A third change I want to refer to is Amendment 19, which affects Standing Order 248, that the government must not more than 60 working days after the Select Committee report has been present their response. This issue arose for us following the Māori Affairs Select Committee tobacco inquiry and the difficulty of considering an extremely complex issue within the constraints of a condensed report back time. The report back was scheduled over the summer break and so it greatly condensed the amount of time that officials could respond over the Christmas holiday period. Following the tabling of the government's response, my colleague Tariana Turia wrote to the Speaker asking for consideration of a consistent time frame for report backs. She asked for consideration to be given to working days rather than 90 calendar days, referred to in the standing orders to ensure fairness. So I'm pleased to say that this was an issue raised and highlighted by us, and there's been movement there. So we had a little bit of a struggle of supporting Amendment number 6, which was the proposed change to Standing Order 277, which suggests that urgency may be accorded to the first reading of a bill, despite the bill not being available to be set down for first reading. The recommendation suggests that this would allow the government to introduce a bill without having to wait for urgency to be accorded, thereby making bills dealt with under urgency available sooner to MPs and the public. We believe it could in fact set a precedent that first readings of bills could be taken under urgency without parties having access to the bill in advance. Mr Speaker, I want to articulate the support of the Māori Party for the new initiative described in the cognate bills. This is specifically addressed in Amendment 20, which provides for the Business Committee to determine that bills can be regarded as cognate bills. This was an initiative which first entered this House in May, I believe, of this year, with the passing of the first reading of the bills, 3 bills, Ngā Waio Maniapoto, the Waipa River Bill, Ngāti Pro Claims Settlement Bill, and the Ngāti Pāhauwera Treaty Claims Settlement Bill. We welcome the opportunity for Parliament to consider bills concurrently, bills which are debated together but voted on separately, and we acknowledge the opportunity remains for the Select Committee to report them back to the House individually. I want to refer to the issue raised at the end of the report and brought together in a section described as communicating Parliament. Mr Speaker, over the last few weeks and even in fact tonight, in the process of valedictory speeches we've heard various comments passed about the war zone, if you like, that we call a debating chamber. The conduct of, and Mr Kennedy Graham also alluded to this in some of his speech, the conduct of some of the members in the parties within the House, it seems, is quite simply unacceptable for the elected leaders of the country, shouting across the chamber while others are speaking, organised heckling, jeering, etc., etc., as have mentioned by some, it needs to stop. So I'm mindful that in 2008 the minor parties signed a voluntary code of conduct for the House. The measures within the document, I think, are pretty reasonable and would contribute to a more honourable showing in the House. Our submission on behalf of the Māori Party suggested that a code of conduct should be considered as a part of standing orders. Another suggestion that we made was that a kawa paremata, which guides the behaviour of at least of Māori Party MPs, could work alongside the code of conduct of the House. The kawa paremata at its core is about respecting other people and showing whanaungatanga to others. Finally, so I refer to the comments around the attendance of members mentioned on page 18 of the report, which specifically states that a member's first duty is to the House. We wholeheartedly agree with the requirement for members to be in attendance at the House, and that it is is pretty important to maintain the respect for the institution of Parliament. And although it would possibly be inappropriate and indeed a breach of standing orders to name a member who was not in the House, I can't sort of avoid making mention of the fact that a significant absence of one political party, which during July and September failed to even lodge a vote, was with a staggering 20 votes, 20 bills going through, was pretty much a statement in itself. It's not as if these bills were of no consequence, sir. They identify particularly extremely controversial bills: policing storage of youth identifying particulars, Amendment Bill, the Student Loan Scheme Bill, the Misuse of Drugs Amendment Bill, and the Māori Commercial Aquaculture Claims Settlement Bill, to name a few. So if I could repeat for the record the key statement in the report, the House would be brought into disrepute if members were seen to be able to simply abandon their duty to it without penalty, we think sort of stands up quite well. So, Mr Speaker, in conclusion, the valedictory speeches of departing members have consistently repeated the concept that to serve in the House of Representatives It is a privilege and an honour. I endorse the sentiment and hope that the amendments to the standing orders we debate here tonight will help us and enable us to continue to uphold that solemn duty responsibly. Kia ora tātou.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those for that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Call on government orders of the day number